What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special. And for the last week, there's been widespread rioting and civil unrest in South Africa over the jailing of their former president. And these riots could spell big trouble for the global supply of platinum. We're going to go into the situation on the ground and some key areas in South Africa to keep an eye on and what this could mean for global platinum prices. You ready? Hit it. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jack Gamble, and I'm Nobody Special. And for the last week, this social unrest in South Africa has been making headlines. Now, South Africa is the world's biggest supplier of platinum by far. Nobody even comes close. Now, before we get into the situation on the ground in South Africa, it's important to understand the supply side dynamics of the platinum industry as a whole. First of all, by country, nobody comes close to South Africa. South Africa, you'll see in this chart, supplies almost 80% of global platinum. The next closest is Russia, and it's not even close. So any major disruptions in South Africa will have a major impact on global platinum supply. It's also important to know where platinum supply is coming from by source. And you can see in this chart, although recycling and automotive scrap and jewelry scrap does supply some of global platinum, the lion's share of it is still coming out of mines. So a disruption in mining in the largest mining country will have a major impact on global supply. And lastly, if you look at the trend in global supply, you can see here that the global supply of platinum has been declining for the last few years. Now, we saw a big decline last year. Obviously, the lockdowns had a big impact on mines. And this 2021 number here is a projection. It's a good bet that number could come in lower now because of what's going on in South Africa. Now, looking at a price chart for platinum going back a year, you can see that big dip that happened at the start of the lockdowns, and the price recovered, but really only to about where it was, actually not quite where it was at the start of the lockdowns. And then platinum started the year very strong, as most of the precious metals did, but it's had a pretty good pullback in these last few months. So looking at this chart, I can say platinum, considering the state of inflation, considering the state of the economy, and now the potential for a supply disruption, I think this price chart shows platinum has a lot of room to run to the upside. So to understand the situation on the ground and how it could affect the platinum supply, first we need to understand where the platinum is found in South Africa. And here you can see the regions where most of the mining resources in South Africa are located. Now you'll notice most of these mines are located in the north-central region of South Africa, in particular the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng regions. Now if we look at a map of where the rioting has been taking place in this country, you'll notice it's centered in basically the same general area. That's important to watch. Now, to understand if this is really affecting the platinum supply, I want to dig into a couple of the headlines in some of the articles. Now, this article is from yesterday from S&P Global, talking about civil unrest hitting the South African mineral supply chain. Now, you'll notice right away in this headline, I want to emphasize a couple of things. First off, we've got bulk commodity and transport export disrupted. That's an important one. But I also want to emphasize this second part here that says PGM. That means platinum group metals, which is platinum, palladium, rhodium, some of those rare precious metals. Those producers are relatively unaffected, at least according to this article from yesterday. Now, I want to scroll down to a couple of places. Now, the article goes into some detail about some force majeure being declared. Now, that mainly affects some of the fossil fuel reserves in South Africa. It doesn't really affect the platinum mines. But down here, we're getting into a little bit more about how the platinum producers are largely unaffected. In particular, there's a couple of things I want to call out here. Right away, we've got Impala Platinum, the world's third largest platinum producer, said on the 14th that it had not been impacted to date. But there's one thing I want to draw attention to here, and that's this second paragraph talking about Impala Platinum. That one of their executives said that infrastructure in the port of Durban and the N3 road corridor linking Durban to South Africa's inland provinces remain critical for fuel and chemical supplies to reach the entire South African mining industry. So that's important, the port of Durban and the N3 road corridor. I also want to mention that this article talks about Anglo-American Platinum right here. Now that's the world's largest platinum mine right there. That they're saying that they are unaffected by the riots, but that they continue to monitor developments carefully. So with that, when I read that article, what really jumped out at me was the city of Durban and this N3 road corridor. I wanted to look in a little bit more into that. And I came up with this second headline This is from today. Again, we're talking about some force majeure being declared on some contracts. All right, that's about to be expected. But there's an important thing in this article that I wanted to mention. If we scroll down this article a few paragraphs, we come to this point. As major transport corridor from Transalloys to the Port of Durban, the N3 highway is completely blocked, and the Port of Durban itself is not operational. The ongoing unrest has created major security concerns affecting both the movement of people and supply chains. So this is an article from this morning. Now, I believe this is dated information by at least a day or so. But according to this article in S&P Global, the N3 highway was completely blocked and the port was out of operation. So that means the supply of chemicals, the supply of fuel, personnel is cut off to the platinum mines. Now, it's important to note that that information about the N3 corridor being disrupted and the port being shut down appears to be dated because this morning the headline was that South Africa had deployed its military to secure the N3 corridor. So things are starting to move along that corridor as long as the situation on the ground doesn't deteriorate further. Now, when you deploy troops to quell a riot, sometimes it works and sometimes it makes things worse. So that's an important situation to watch, and that N3 corridor is vital. Now, here's a map showing the port city of Durban and the important city of Johannesburg and the N3 corridor linking the two. This is the vital avenue where all of the ore and all of the refined product that's exported travels, and it's also where all the materials that the mines and the refineries need is supplied through. So these are vital areas, and you'll notice this is where the rioting has been hit the hardest. Here's the map of the rioting, and you see right around Johannesburg, right around the mining complex, and again, right around that port city of Durban. Now, we talked about the riots and how they could affect the supply side of the equation for platinum. It's important to keep an eye on the demand side, though. Here's a chart of the breakdown of platinum usage by sector. Now, it's important to keep an eye here. 44% of platinum demand is for the automotive industry. Keep in mind, there's been some major disruptions in the automotive industry. Platinum is used in catalytic converters and exhaust systems. So if this situation with the chip shortage is really affecting the manufacture of cars, it's possible that we could see some disruption in the demand for platinum that offsets any disruption in supply. So it's important to watch both sides of this equation. It's also important to note that as palladium prices increase, it's causing more demand in the automotive sector as palladium is also used in catalytic converters. And as palladium gets more expensive, some are switching back to platinum. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't want you to make any trades based on what you hear from Nobody Special. I want you to do your own research, your own DD, and arrive at a decision that's right for you based on your unique situation. But there's a couple of ways you could invest the platinum here, right? The first is the safest way, and that's to buy physical platinum. You can get it from any of the bullion websites. You're going to pay a premium, but that is the safest method. You hold it, you own it. No questions asked. The other method you could do is you could invest in platinum mining stock. Now, you have to be careful investing in mining stocks because if you invest in one of the miners who has a mine shut down by a riot or one of the miners whose supply chain is disrupted by the riots, well, then you're going to take a big hit to earnings in that stock, so you wouldn't benefit from a rise in the price of the finished commodity. So be careful if you're going to try to invest in miners here. And the third way you could invest is you could invest in an ETF that tracks the price of platinum. And this is the avenue I chose. Today I took out a small position in PLTM. It's an ETF that buys physical platinum bullion. Now again, I want to emphasize, don't make any trades based on what you hear from me. I took out a very small position. I think platinum is a solid investment regardless of the situation going on in South Africa. It's a hedge against inflation. I treat it just like I would an investment in gold or silver. But in this case, this is my first venture into platinum, so we'll see how that works out. Guys, I want to thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out. In the meantime, live small and dream big.